All right, we are doing a dynamic interview series. Today we're featuring Hugh Hernesman of Jacksonville Skyline Volleyball. Hugh, nice to see you. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic.
Great. Could you give us a little bit of information, maybe like a 30-second elevator pitch on what it is that you do?
Oh, my wife and I run a youth volleyball club in Jacksonville, Florida. Um, After 20 some years at the collegiate level, we decided to get out and have kind of more stable roots, I guess. But yeah, we started a club here in 2017. About 4 years ago, we opened up our own facility, and about a year and a half ago, we expanded that, doubled our space. So we've gone from 3 teams in year one to I think this year we're going to have 32 teams-ish, offering boys volleyball as well now too, and it's a year-round thing. So we're training most of the season with our athletes, but even in the off seasons, quote unquote, our athletes are in here working out with our strength coach or getting lessons and clinics, and so it's a 365 day a year um, experience here.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit more about like you run a volleyball club, but what all does that include? So, what services do you offer? Like, what teams? Can you kind of break down what it is that you're providing to girls and boys, and what ages, and all that?
We start as young, I mean, we have a Volley Tots program that goes once a week, and that starts as young as 6 years old. Our teams start forming around 10 years old, and then we go all the way up to 18. So the bulk of what we do is competitive teams that play throughout the state and throughout the country for our higher level teams um, from November through early July. Um, the boys' season is a different timing. They go from kind of September through January, mid-January, then they take a break for their high school seasons, which is in the spring here in Florida. And they reconvene after that season for about 8 weeks or so until nationals. So we offer those competitive teams, but we also have some more regional and local type teams that we offer. And then on top of that, we've got a full-time strength coach and a full-time assistant that run our weight room. They offer training for our athletes, but then also outside people. But like our athletes work out twice a week during the season on their practice days, but then they will also get a third workout or sometimes a fourth workout during the week with our athletes. Weekends, we're running skill clinics for Skyline people, but then also we'll run open skill clinics for the public. We offer lessons before practices and on non-practice days. In the summer, we do camps. We have college coaches camp that we run every year. There's just there's a lot for a lot of variety of people. We run a club prep program for people that aren't quite ready for a travel team, but just want to learn skill. So we've done a nice job of building our teams, especially early on through that program. But again, it's we've got players playing at top 25 Division I programs that are alumni of ours. We're sending people off to all levels of collegiate volleyball. But also we've got kids that we're really proud of that make their varsity teams and contribute on their varsity rosters at young ages. And we talk a lot about, getting people to their level, not to necessarily a level, but to their highest level. So we've had to I think we've had to really be creative in how we did that because our background is as college coaches. And for us to kind of transform into this club world where we have athletes that don't maybe have as much experience or training or professional training, that's been a uh, pretty big project for us. And then also starting 8 years ago, we've had to break into a landscape that's had, a couple very common and dominant type names and clubs that have been in place already. So for us to break in and make our mark has been it's taken a lot.
Awesome. You mentioned coming from college. Can you give me a little bit of background of where you were at in coaching for college, and then kind of like the transition from coaching college to starting a club for juniors?
22 years in the collegiate world. Started in good old Wisconsin at Wisconsin Whitewater as a student assistant with no plans of ever really going on to coach at a collegiate level. And then my first year, the head coach at the time, Chris Russell, who's, one of my major mentors throughout my career, um, she's like, I think you could be really good at this. Have you ever thought about college? And I was just trying to graduate and go teach and be a high school teacher and a high school coach. And she's like, I think you could be really good. If you thought about grad school, if you can get your master's degree, you can, coach and teach at a Division III level. And at that time, my dream was, if we could at some point when Chris retires, take over whitewater volleyball, like that was what I knew for a very long time. And then just kind of in the process of that and her career progressing and, my career progressing, moved to Abilene, Texas, Hardin Simmons University, Division III school in Abilene. And that was, in most jobs, most college jobs, when you get them, are going to be rebuilding
Mhm.
opportunities. And that certainly was at Hardin Simmons. And, in 3 years there, with no real plans of leaving, I think, when we left. But after that third year, we got them to the NCAA tournament and built that program relatively quickly, just kind of using the model and the blueprint that we learned, while we were at Whitewater. Um, and then had an opportunity to join a friend of ours who's at Division I level at Ball State University. So Steph and I went and we were assistants for Dave Booz. And Dave is an Oshkosh guy and had been at Minnesota as their associate head coach for a long time and multiple Final Fours while he was there. So the chance to work with a friend of ours and learn something different and I guess get a little bit closer to home, which with the weather and we were in Texas, moving to Indiana wasn't you know the the temperature differences we were looking for, but that was a great opportunity to learn from somebody that had done it at a very, very high level. But we knew that was going to be temporary. We enjoyed running our own program when we were in Abilene at Hardin Simmons. And so we told Dave, like, we'll help you get this going, but after a few years, we're gonna, see what we can find. And that led us to Northwestern State in Natchitoches, Louisiana. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Natchitoches, Louisiana.
Nope, not
I
this.
know. It's a sleepy little southern town and just south of Shreveport. And had a great experience there. 5 years there, another rebuild, and that was from the bottom up. Like that was a program that really needed a lot of attention and didn't have a lot of resources, but needed a pretty strong vision, I think. And so, I think again, we've had this as college coaches and learning from great people, you just develop this blueprint and this model of how things should go and how things work well and how to train athletes and how to communicate with athletes and connect with them and all of that. And so we got there and a program that was, generally at the bottom of their conference and 300 plus RPI. By year 3, we were 20 wins. Year 4 was 21 wins. Year 5 was NCAA tournament, top 15 win over Mizzou. Like so that was super gratifying and a really cool town and cool campus that we never, you know, planned on or thought that we'd really kind of leave. But then when you have success, opportunities do come up. So from there, I got the head coaching job at Clemson University, was there for 2 years And that Power Five, now Power Four level is a cutthroat one. And we walked into um, a situation where I don't know that the administration had a lot of, um, I don't know that they cared a lot about volleyball,
Mm.
and their focus at that time, and maybe rightfully so, was on football, and that's when football was in a big run, and Deshaun Watson was there, and Trevor Lawrence was on his way, and they were great, and um, but it just wasn't a good fit for how we wanted to build a program. We wanted structure, we wanted accountability, and at that time, that was something that we weren't really given the leeway to enforce. So after 2 years, we were we were done, and after that, friends of ours that run Dallas Skyline, um, that founded Dallas Skyline, they reached out and they had a friend of theirs start a Skyline program in Houston, and Mitch and Jen were old Dallas Skyline coaches that had moved down there, and they were just really trying to start a club. And John and Jody were like, "Hey, we've got we kind of have the infrastructure in place. If you just want to call it a Houston Skyline, we can do that and we'll help you." And so that's what they did for us. They told us to pick a city anywhere we wanted to live. So we went to a large population, we went to good weather, and we tried to get to a beach, and that happened to be Jacksonville, and there was a need here. We felt like there was a hole in the development of athletes at a higher level. Um, so that's kind of how we ended up here, but we literally came to Jacksonville, Florida, without knowing anybody but a handful of college coaches that were here. But we didn't know a lot about the club landscape. We didn't know any of the high school coaches. We had to come in fresh and be in a world that really wasn't one that we were familiar with. It's volleyball, but it's the junior side of it is very different, and so we needed a lot of help. But it's always been for us about maintaining your core beliefs and how you build a program. And so whether you're building a team at a college or whether you're building an organization at the collegiate or at the juniors level, it's still based upon strong fundamental training and accountability and high standards, and competition and all of those things. When you put those together, and treating people well, treating people in a good way, and having great relationships, like building a strong, for us, family culture, like that was what really thrived for us. While we were college coaches, I thought that, that was a different approach, and we weren't quite the business-like um, approach that some of the major schools come across, and very transactional, and that's just not the way it's not fun that way, at least for us. For
Yeah.
us, it doesn't work that way because we get a lot of satisfaction, a lot of joy out of the relationships we build in the sport. So it's kind of how we built the club and the program. And so, I mean, we literally, I joke about it, but like we had tryouts in 2017 that summer, and posted up on our social media and on our website, and we had a grand total of 0 people show up at our tryouts. Nobody. Nobody showed up for tryouts. They didn't know who we were.
Yeah.
Our first coaching job, when we arrived, without knowing many people, was a middle school program that fed into one of our, top high school programs around here. So we kind of got to know people there. We built, a few teams based, all kind of with the core of those athletes that really enjoyed their middle school experience, and all those players kind of grew up with us. And one's playing Division I beach right now, and it's been a pretty cool experience to see how that grew. My first team after being the head coach at Clemson, my first team was a 11U team
Mm.
that had my daughter on it, who was 8, and it was probably the best thing for me, just in terms of just decompressing from the whole college world and how difficult that is and how nonstop that is.
Mhm.
So that was, but yeah, I joked that my I went from Clemson to 11U team, This- a mismatched team of awesome kids, and actually one of them is now at Coastal Carolina, and so it's kind of cool to see that progress.
Awesome. You touched on this a little bit, but I want to dig into it a little bit more. So, can you tell me a little bit more about the why behind what you do? Like why volleyball? Why youth athletes? What is your passion?
Um, I think what I really enjoy out of coaching is the relationships that we develop. Um, and so whether that is with, other coaches, it's like I see a lot of people out. I line judge college matches, and so I get to see some people that are in that college world a lot and kind of reconnect with them. But I mean, you know, there are days, and I'm sure everybody has these in their professions, where you have to go to work and you're just not into it. You're not ready for it. It's going to be a long one and all that. And consistently for me is the second I arrive here and I start to get around these athletes and our girls, it's just it becomes different. It changes your whole day. And so that's really exciting, when you can think you're going to have a bad day. And so I would say the why is the people for sure, and the relationships, and those lifelong friendships and relationships that you build out of it. And then I think probably, obviously there's just a love for the sport that introduced me to a whole different, part of my life in terms of how you connect with teammates, how you compete, how you can grow. It's a sport that I think is really difficult, but also um, you can get better fast as a volleyball player. So to see growth and help people achieve their goals, and watching athletes go on to play at the collegiate level is amazing. Like when we do our senior recognition stuff here, like those are emotional days because we're losing kids that have been with us for a long time and they're part of what you've done, and you see them, for some of these kids since they're 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old. And um, but it's also a lot of emotion, just from pride that like that's somebody who set a goal and they put in the work to achieve it, and we were able to give them the resources and give them the training and all that stuff, and they're able to utilize our expertise to get them where they want to be.
I took from that, it sounds like you're more of an extroverted person where you get energized being around people.
I don't know. It's funny because I almost consider myself to be uh a little bit reserved and introverted at times. Like I enjoy my alone time.
Yeah.
But in social settings, at least like in this, I do really like it. Like I know that there are club directors that dread going through the gym and having to talk to parents, and I'm kind of the one that, Steph will have to like pull me away from a parent. Like I'll sit down and we'll start chatting, and I think I think probably what I'm doing, maybe not even intentionally, is just I'm kind of always checking the temperature and the vibe and the feeling and how people are viewing what we're doing. I think, for both Steph and I, our reputations are very important to us. And we want to make sure that if we're going to do something, we're going to do it at a very high level. And so I think that's probably, to some level, I'm doing that to check in to make sure, hey, are we providing what you need? Tell me how your daughter is doing, or I'm noticing. That's one of the things I do like to see is, when you notice somebody really improving and putting in the work, is to sit down next to mom or dad and be like, this is different. Like what she is today is different than what she was even 2 or 3 months ago. And I want you to recognize that she's made this progress, and that we recognize it too, and it's not going unnoticed.
Mhm. Awesome. What are some of the biggest challenges that athletes or parents face in your club? I mean, it could be a new family or an existing family, but what are some of those challenges that are presented by either the athlete or the parent?
For new or just in
You
general?
could, in general, I mean, you could focus on new, but yeah, I guess open.
Yeah, I think a lot of the challenges just come in managing the schedules, and for some families it's just affording it, honestly. It's we're kind of I hate to say it, but we're kind of a country club sport, and many people have to have means for the most part to participate in club volleyball. Now we do have, people that we're connected to that offer sports scholarships and things like that. But I think that just, especially for families that have more than one child that are all doing sports at the same time. So if you've got three of them and you've got, range from sixth grade to 10th grade and you don't have a driver yet, that can become a big challenge for them. And then for our top teams, we're traveling all over. Like we're in Philadelphia, we're in Salt Lake City, we're in Omaha, we're in Dallas, in Chicago. Like we're, all over. And so managing their families with the priority being with their daughter, playing, I think is a pretty big challenge. And I think the other thing that they will struggle with is just um, club volleyball is different than school volleyball. And almost all of these kids, it's the same thing that we dealt with as college coaches. Like kids come in and they're the best player in their club or second best player in their club and they're all state and all this stuff. And you get into a college gym, it's like that doesn't that doesn't mean anything anymore because everybody's that. Like, and so that's what kind of club volleyball can be too, is that um, most of those players are the best players on their grade school team or their middle school team. And so them managing some of that, I don't know if it's ego or if it's just shock, but managing that maybe my daughter is not the best or she's not earning the playing time that we envisioned. And, is this money well spent? And so that's, those are some of the conversations that we have to have with parents is, the expectation, we do our best, our very best to provide a lot of training and technical training and video options and all that kind of stuff so that our athletes can so they can improve. And so whether that means that's showing on the court, you could have the third outside in a on a team that is at the time playing just two outsides that can get a lot better, but then having a family recognize that and I don't we don't appreciate not from appreciate us, but just appreciate the fact that their kid has, continued to improve. So those, I mean, those are the major hurdles that parents have. There's some social things that happen and just kind of getting connected in with a new team sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge. But I think, we talk about a family environment, for the club, and I think that that extends to our parents as well, and so we don't see that a lot. I hear about that from other places, and once in a while, when somebody's new, they're like, it's kind of a tight circle. It's tough to get into. Um, but if we overhear that, like I'll go to, one of those parents and say, hey, make sure you invite so and so along because, they're new and whatever, and that seems to usually take care of itself. So it is the kids that you're mostly focused on, but you are also, it matters, you know, I think, at least for us, it matters, what the family and how they're managing the entire situation. So we try to look out for those things as well. It's a lot, but again, it's when you care about the people, those things become important. When you
Right.
care about the winning, those aren't.
Yeah.
And so, I think when you care about the people, the winning just it comes.
Any challenges that come up with multi-sport athletes? Is it kind of a scheduling thing, or is that kind of drop off as they get older? They pick one or the other?
Mostly with our younger ones, they'll usually by the time they're, to 16s, which is their sophomore year in high school, they've usually picked at that point. But I coach our top 16s, and I've got a multi-sport basketball player. Um, and so it's, we'll manage it. I get concerned about overuse all the time and just these athletes being exhausted and not having the strength base to deal with it and prevent injuries and at least reduce injury risk. Which is why, the strength program for us and a full-time strength coach and the weight program that everybody does is very important to us so that their bodies can kind of take a little bit of that pounding. But I worry about, then they've got school on top of it and they've got social things and it can become a lot. It's a lot for college athletes and they're way further along, developmentally and emotionally than some of our younger athletes that are kind of dealing with the same challenges. Um, but it's you, I see a lot of benefit in multi-sport just in terms of just working different movement patterns. But then also just concepts. Volleyball ended up being my sport, but gosh, when I was growing up, it was basketball, right? And I think that learning to balance your body to box out a rebound or going up to get a rebound or um, focusing on a big picture defensively, that those are all things, those are all traits and skills that help you with volleyball and I'm sure other sports as well too. So I think that aspect is beneficial to them. I just always worry, and I worry just even with our own athletes if they're just doing volleyball, like are we doing too much? We try to go lighter in November and December so that they're not exhausted by March and April. Like we were very cognizant of those things, but still like we kids want to be in the gym. Like even then, we there was a time we were going once a week in November and December, like kind of forcing athletes into taking a break, specifically the high school age,
Mhm.
the middle schools we bring in. But then those athletes were like, well, if I'm only coming in once, then I'm going to come in for like a lesson for sure. And then I want to be in there in the weight room. And it's like, you just can't, you can't stop them and save them from themselves as much as you want to. I think some of the best advice we got from John and Jody Rye at Dallas Skyline is like, you've got to be constantly offering things because if you don't offer them, they'll just go somewhere else to get those things. And if you want to keep them in-house and be able to monitor what they're doing, you've got to at least have that available. And I thought that was great advice, and we've followed that. So even when we try to go light, we offer clinics and we offer lessons and it's just it's going to ultimately have to come down to what the parents decide. But yeah, multi-sports we're seeing it less and less. It's not like when I was growing up in the 80s, right? Where you just did all, in the fall you're playing football and in the winter you're playing basketball and in the spring you play baseball. And that was kind of the way it went. And then in the summers you golf. That's what I did at least. And then volleyball came along and I felt like that was in the fall a lot better than trying to throw up in football conditioning. So I went that route. But yeah, long answer, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. You had mentioned how like your background is from college. That's where you started. But can you tell me more about what kind of differentiates you from other clubs? And it could be clubs in your area or just clubs in general, and how like what's unique about what you're offering versus other clubs, how you do things.
Without being in other clubs' gyms and knowing on a day to day, I think we view development as college coaches. Like that's kind of what I tell people a lot of times. Like they're like, well, at so and so club, like year to year, that roster doesn't seem to change. Like it's hard to break in. And 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 some of that's just complaints and excuses for, for a kid not making a team that they wanted to make. But I think I think that a lot of times there is some merit to that. There's some just natural inclination to keep that group together or whatever. And so like, we view things from a competitive standpoint. It's like you need to earn it all the time. Like you're going to earn your playing time on the court. We don't have equal playing time. It's going to be earned so that you know that when you're on the floor and performing, you've earned that role, whatever that role is, whoever big or small role that is, those roles are important. So I think we just view it from a developmental sense in terms of we need to incentivize development because that reward comes in their playing time, but also comes in just their own personal development. But then we see kind of on a big picture scale is like we recognize early on, and that was one of the best lessons we learned when we were at Whitewater with Coach Russell was that the work that people put in the weight room and that strength program pays off and it's important. And so like I don't think there are a lot of clubs that offer, part of your practice day is an hour of strength training and performance training with a full-time person, not just a guy who's hanging out. And it's not just you can sign up to go to this guy, but the rest of your team isn't doing it. It's not that. It is a full experience of like how can we create a college environment at the juniors level, and that has kind of always been what we've gone for because that's what we're most familiar with. We know that's what's going to drive success. We've seen it over and over at different programs that we've been at other programs, that we just pay attention to in our conferences or where our friends are coaching. Like that whole basic blueprint isn't, you know, all that different anywhere you go, but it's different and foreign to a juniors environment. So I think we just view things from a college perspective, and so everything is earned. Our turnover rate, in terms of teams, people performing well for a season, maybe on a second team and ending up on a first team, like that happens a lot, and it's difficult, right? Because you do become close with the players and you become close with their families, and I think they get disappointed when you don't take that kid and they go from a first team to a second team, right? Like it's exciting for the ones that earn it, but what that means is they're taking somebody's place.
Mhm.
And so either that player, leaves and goes for a different opportunity, or they go down to a second team because they believe in what you're doing. Like that happens a lot here, but those are always difficult conversations, especially with people that have been on, some of our higher teams for a long time. They just sometimes just get beat out. New people come in, or younger people, or not younger, but lower team, athletes to just develop, and it's just kind of it's a little bit of a life lesson, which is hard to learn at a young age and probably hard to comprehend at a young age. But I think that's what probably makes us different is we view it from a college perspective. Like how can we best prepare our athletes to play at the college level? And that's create that environment here. Now we understand that not all of them are good enough to go and play in college, or not all of them even want to. We have a lot that they just choose not to play in college and they focus on school. And um, but in that case, we're not going to drop our standard for them, right? We're not going to, because there's going to be people that they play with that want to play at the next level. And so we're going to prepare you as if you're going to be at the next level. And if that's too much, that's fine. We understand it's just not, it's not the right place then
Mhm.
for you. But yeah, I would say that's probably is just the way we view building building the club. And I don't know if there's a lot of people that really view it that way. I think they model other local clubs that are run by high school coaches and people that have played at maybe a high level, and so it's just I think we offer a unique perspective, and we've been able to really learn from some great coaches, and I think that really helped us.
Awesome. Can you briefly mention what some of the benefits are of having your own facility?
Huge, actually. It's the benefit. that's not a benefit. It's a big headache. It's a lot of work, but I mean, it's worth it for it has elevated our club in terms of just, um, I think their development, our athletes' development. Having the weight room has been a huge deal for us. We got a 4,000 square foot weight room with 7 racks now, and lots of space to get stronger and faster and jump higher and all those things. But I think where it's really kind of helped us most is just having the space that we can run endless lessons if we need to. Like we've got the space and the time. We don't have to worry about getting gym space from somebody else who might be renting it to someone else or at a high school who's going to have a practice or a game. Like all of those things are things that when you don't have your own space, you have to really concern yourself with. So being able to run lessons, to run skill clinics, positional skill clinics, um, I like that, having my own space, like on a Monday where we have a practice after a qualifier maybe, or after a 3-day tournament, that I can say, okay, Monday we're going to do a recovery in the weight room, and then instead of practice, we're going to go into our conference room, we're going to watch some film. And so you can't do that without your own space, generally speaking. Um, so I think that really helps. But kids can be in here all the time, really.
Mhm.
So I think that's helped us. It's probably helped grow our coaching staff as well. Like some of our coaching staff has come from people that will come here and play in leagues after practices are over. We open up the courts for, rentals for the public and leagues and things like that. And so people see what we're doing. They come in a little bit early for their time slot and watch some of the practices, and they're like, I really want to be a part of that. And so that's helped us in a number of ways, but I think mostly it's benefited, our athletes, and which is, I mean, it's the goal of all of this is to give them as much opportunity as possible.
Mhm.
Uh, and so that's really been a huge shift in the club and our performance, I believe, as once we started with all that.
Yeah, I think as a parent's perspective, I have a daughter in club volleyball as well. Having the consistency in schedule is like I would go nuts if there was like different days or different times of practices every week.
Yeah.
That would just drive me nuts. I'm like how a lot of kids are in more than one sport or they have multiple kids in different sports and trying to change that schedule like it's just nuts. So having that consistency is something that I really appreciate. So.
That's something I totally forgot about. And I didn't even think about it, honestly, because we've never really had to move things around that much. But I do hear about that from other places. Like, we'll show up for practice and it's not a practice day, and
Oh
I'm
gosh.
checking team snap or I got to do whatever. And for us, it's if you practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 to 7, that
Yeah.
doesn't change
Yeah.
at all.
So I guess you kind of mentioned this. What are parents and athletes saying that come from other clubs about working with you or kind of how your setup is?
Um, I think they recognize that we do a lot of teaching.
Hmm.
We've heard a lot of, we were at so and so club for 3 years and she's learned more in a month, and I don't know if that's real. I don't know if it's that drastic, I should say, but I think they do recognize that we have a lot of teachers in the club. So like my degree is in secondary education. My master's degree is in curriculum instruction. Steph's master's program is the same exact thing. Wendy Tiemann, our assistant director, is a 20 plus year school teacher, and we've got a number of teachers or former teachers that are coaches in the club. So we teach and we train. And so that makes sense that people would recognize that we do things differently. We master train the gym. So we've got an experienced coach. Usually that's Steph and Wendy are running the master training. And so I think they see that as a big benefit because there's a singular voice that's directing practices um, and so, I think they also what we hear a lot too is it's just a lot more organized. The communication is really good, and it's never good enough for us. Like, oh, we forgot to do this, or we forgot to say this, and once is too much for us. Like we understand we're going to make mistakes, but when it happens, I think we feel really bad. And then we'll go to a parent. They're like, "Don't even worry about it. Like this is nothing compared to what I'm used to. Like you are over communicating if nothing else." So I think the communication, I think just the level of training. But again, it makes some sense to me that we've been exposed to some of the best coaches, volleyball coaches in the country, and we've learned from them. And so we're a lot of what we do, I mean, we build upon that base, but a lot of what we do is just almost regurgitating some of that, right? And so not a lot of people have that opportunity and that experience. And so that's where we're fortunate that we've been able to learn from some great people. And so it would make sense that somebody would sit in our gym and recognize this is different. This is a different level of training. It's a different level of detail. Um, but I hope, those are great and those things are awesome. I hope that they recognize that the culture is different. And I hear that a lot too. Like it's just people want to be here and they're excited to be here. And the girls get along on the teams or like cross teams, like there's friendships between multiple age levels. And so it's cool to watch like a Mari King who's playing at a high Division 1 level, like get like she comes into the gym and it's like our 13 threes kids will run up and give her a hug and she knows who they are. And
Yeah.
that kid in maybe a different environment might be like, "Ah, stop," right? And but
Right.
like she appreciates that those kids look up to her and that and so there's countless examples of that I think um kind of back up that claim. We talk a lot about Skyline family, and to see that in action and tangible is rewarding.
It's funny that you mentioned Mari King because my next question was gonna ask you about highlighting a success story from one of your athletes. So like is there anything more you want to add about? I don't know if you want to highlight her or somebody else, but
Mari's the obvious one. She's the all-time career kill leader in the state of Florida. Super high level player that was recruited by countless, top 50 type programs, top 25 programs. And she's one that put in all the work, for sure. But I think that like when I highlight people, I think the story that I really, really love to tell is Ashlyn Anderson. And so Ashlyn Anderson is at Kennesaw State mid-major, a strong mid-major in Conference USA, just outside of Atlanta. Um, but I mean, Ash came to us at 15s and was long and relatively tall for her age, but not skilled and not good and sometimes hard to watch and difficult time even cracking the starting lineup and staying there if she got in there. Um, if you would have told me that at 15 that kid was going to go on and play high level Division 1 volleyball, I I would have said that is the top of the scale that has a 10% chance of happening, right? And there's a trajectory for everybody that changes based on opportunity and the work that they put in and their development. But gosh, I had her at 16s and she was in every weekend for lessons and just put in a ton of work with coaches and lessons. But then also once she decided that she really wanted to play Division 1 volleyball, which I think is sometimes silly. I think you should want to play at a great program in high level volleyball, whether that's Division 1 or two. There's a lot of great levels, and I've been at them all, right? But when that was her goal, I'm like, okay. I said, well, if you want to play at a high level, you're gonna have to be your jump touch, your approach touch is going to have to be in a pretty good range. And I said, the magic number is at least 10 feet, 9, 10, 10 feet, somewhere in there. And she jump tested like a 9.6 and was defeated. And so but instead of stopping, she just went to work. She was in the weight room all the time. She was in the gym all the time and just continued to work on mechanical flaws in her skill set that we put a lot of time in on her and I, but then also just become more physical, stronger, higher, faster. That didn't come naturally for her, and so to see that over the course of over from 15s to 17s, late 17s when she committed, um, that's that's the dream, to see like that everybody should shoot for that. Oh, I'm the bad kid at 15s and I can play Division One volleyball. Yeah. I mean, nobody would have thought that was going to be Ashlyn Anderson, but it is.
Yeah.
And she's going to go on and she's in her sophomore year right now and getting a lot of playing time here and there and sitting behind two really good kids right now. But she'll get her opportunity these next 2 years, and they believe she can be an all-conference player, and it's amazing. Like it's just that's somebody who should be the model for every I think Mari King, people knew it was going to happen with Mari King. Mari King just needed to learn to be a six rotation player. But as far as just her drive and her competitiveness and strength and how hard she hit the ball and all those things, she is a natural for her. It is a matter of what level is she going to be able to get to. I think without her dedication and maybe some of our experience and guidance. I think maybe should have ended up at a lower Division One level, but she's going to end up somewhere in there,
Yeah.
right? That was never really a question. She's a special athlete in person from the start. Ash was not that, she was not blessed with all those things that Mari had.
Awesome. We are going to move into a few rapid fire questions before we wrap it up. First off, do you have a favorite dad joke? It's something that I do every Fridays on my social channels for my business. So I'll share one with you that I shared a while back. Went to a zoo the other day and only saw a dog. It was a Shih Tzu.
That's a good one. I don't know if I have a favorite one, but the one that comes to mind is why did the chicken cross the road?
Why?
Because.
Oh gosh, I've seen little kids like do that one. Yeah, it's great.
That's a good one.
You mentioned White. You went to college in Whitewater.
Yeah.
That okay. Favorite sports team?
Green Bay Packers.
Your Packers. Coffee or tea?
Actually, what I should have done,
Oh, where your cheese? You have a cheese? There you go.
answered
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
You're in the office. All right. What was the next one?
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee. Okay. Is there a favorite local restaurant you go to in Jacksonville?
Um, oh, yeah, Uber Eats. I'm always here.
A
Yeah,
specific place that you go to more frequently, or all the above? Yes.
all the above. Taco Lu,
Mm.
Mexican
Book or a movie?
movie.
Is there a certain TV series you're watching right now?
I just started Homeland.
Homeland. Okay, I've heard of that one.
It's, I mean, I literally just started last night. Just finished up Special Ops Lioness. Have you
Okay.
heard of it?
Not that one.
Great.
Which
Great.
platform?
It's on, oh, I stream it illegally.
Oh,
But I don't know where it's, maybe it might be on Netflix. But yeah, Lioness. That's good. Landman is great. I'm excited for the new season. I haven't started watching it yet.
cool. Favorite pizza topping?
Pepperoni.
Pepperoni. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you think would be helpful for someone that's watching this, like a parent or an athlete or anybody else that about either you or your business or your technique, how you do things?
Um, hmm, should have prepped me on this one. Um, maybe, probably maybe somebody's watching this would be like, how do I get into it? It seems like a lot, right?
Mhm.
How do I start in the club world? Because it can be overwhelming. I'm sure you experienced
Oh,
that with your
absolutely.
daughter. And
Yes.
so, I think that, for me is it makes sense to start young and see if they enjoy it, see if they have fun with it, see if they want to go back. Um, and I think that's kind of the place to start. And that's probably all the youth sports, honestly. When we were younger, or my daughter was younger, she started out in gymnastics and she couldn't wait to go. And so if she enjoyed it and we felt like it was a great environment, we just kept supporting that. Now she didn't have a choice. She had to play volleyball too. That's my wife. But but yeah, I think that just getting into at least club volleyball specifically is start out in camps or clinics at a club that you're maybe looking for. I think it's important to do research. I think it's important that you don't trust every single voice that has an opinion, because I think you'll talk to parents that are at one club and they're going to be super biased, and they might be biased against another club because these rivalries exist. We try to really stay out of that stuff. We for the longest time we're like we're going to operate in a bubble and we're going to do what we do.
Mhm.
And what everybody else does, not interested, don't care. They're going to do things their way, we're going to do things our way, but I'm not worried about, if they win at this tournament or how their teams place or whatever. Just it's not important. It's not important in the mission, right? So I think that, I think it's important to do your own research and talk to multiple people, but I think really honestly is just be there. I think, we all have this natural sense of, does this feel right or does it feel wrong? And follow those instincts. I think unfortunately, there are people that do this um, for other reasons other than athlete development. And I think there's monetary incentive. I think there's ego incentive. There's a lot of, there are other reasons that people run, youth organizations and youth sports. So understand that, that exists, and um, you just got to find where it feels right. Surround yourself with good people. I mean, people say that all the time, but it's really honestly what we've tried to do, even like with our coaching staff, is like we just want good people. Like we can teach people with volleyball knowledge how to coach, right? And the way we structure our organizations, we can build them into good coaches. Jimmy Mason is a great example for our club. He's our top 13's coach, but he started out as a guy who played volleyball and was a friend of one of our coaches and just dove into the training and into learning more and more. And the kids love him. And so, he worked himself from a assistant coach to a twos team coach to a first team coach, and I think he's qualified his last 3 seasons as teams. Like he's does a great job, um, but ultimately with Jimmy, he's a good guy. He's a really good person, and he cares about things for the right reasons and the right, the right. He's got the right motivation.
Mhm.
So I think we all have our own kind of spidey senses on what feels right and what feels, and I think, I would recommend that you go to where you feel like your athlete is going to be best trained and not necessarily what the best team is, because those don't always coincide.
Mhm.
That was us for a while. Like I think now we've kind of done a nice job of putting ourselves at the forefront of the club scene here in Jacksonville, but it wasn't always that way. But the training never changed. Like we knew that our athletes were being trained and trained well. It was just a matter of time before we were training enough athletes to get to that level. Um, But I think too often, parents get focused on is that team winning. And sometimes some of your best coaches are the ones that are on teams that don't necessarily win, but develop their athletes. Like what do those players look like from the beginning to the end? And you're not gonna be able to tell that, right away as a coach or as a parent. Um, but I think I can attend like I played baseball, but I didn't play baseball at a high level. I didn't play in high school. Um, and but like I could go to my son's baseball practices and I'm like, that's a great practice. Like I can see the organization, I can see the feedback that's being given, the tone, this is a teaching environment, those things are I think important, at least to me. But I think we all can kind of get a feeling for what looks like it's about the kids.
Yeah. Okay. Where can people follow you or find out more information about your club?
Our website, thanks to Dynamic Spark, is jaxskyline.com, JAX skyline.com. We're on Instagram. We are on Facebook. Um, those are kind of our main platforms. We do have a TikTok account, but I'm way too old to get invested into it. I probably need to hire one of our younger people to take care of that one. Um, but yeah, you can follow us all. You can follow us there. We do have a YouTube page as well that is got some pretty good content as well.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today for this interview. Thanks very much, and hope it's beneficial for you.
Right.
And yeah, thanks for taking the time.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks, Judah.